American people are really trying to tell the president in overwhelming numbers that they think that he is focused on all the wrong things. When is he going to listen? Is he going to listen?
No, I don't think it's not a problem. It obviously is a problem politically. I think what the president would tell you is that he's focusing on what he believes is best for this country in the long term, despite the fact that it's hurting him right now in the polls.
Donald Trump and the Republicans have given the middle finger to middle-class Americans and middle America, and they are going to respond as they have been consistently
the polling
in every
that shows
single
exactly
election.
Look, I'm not going to be Pollyannish here and say everything's fabulous. I think obviously the midterms is going to be a moment where people have to make a decision. I also am aligned with Jason that I don't think this is some sort of love letter to Democrats for him to do.
He got into that war telling us it would be 4 or 5 weeks. We're now months into this war with 18 dead American soldiers. He has no
polling
plan.
reflects that, yeah.
This isn't about polling. This is about what's really happening. He has no plan to get out.
The president has also been very involved in a lot of personal vendettas. He's enriched himself greatly in the last 18 months.
That and then making money through business ventures like crypto. People are wondering how they can pay for their gas and their groceries. And so this is a problem because remember, the issues he got elected on were affordability, it was inflation, and it was immigration.
Guys, last night on Abby Phillip show, MAGA pundits were completely annihilated when they tried to defend Donald Trump's failure to address the country's biggest issues. Abby and the progressive panelists fact-checked these MAGA creeps so hard, they were cornered into complete silence. Now, I'm going to play some clips from the show. I'll talk about it as we go.
Tonight, an extraordinary rebuke of President Trump's presidency, his failure to deliver on his promises, and an indictment of his priorities. A new CNN poll finds that just 34% of Americans approve of Trump's job as president, with nearly 2/3 of them disapproving. It's tied for the worst in Trump's career as president, matching his career low, which followed the January 6th insurrection. Half of Americans now strongly disapprove of Trump, a high across his 2 terms, with a record low of 15% strongly approving. Now, within his own party, Trump's approval rating has also hit a new low, and just 19% of Republicans say they're enthusiastic about the rest of his second term. A record high, 73% of Americans say that Trump hasn't paid enough attention to the country's most important problems, with just 27% saying that he's had the right priorities so far. This is a really terrible poll for the president, and it's not isolated. Quinnipiac poll had similar results. The American people are really trying to tell the president in overwhelming numbers that they think that he is focused on all the wrong things. When is he going to listen? Is he going to listen?
I mean, you mentioned the Quinnipiac poll. It's also not great for Democrats. I think the polling overall has been saying pretty much the same thing across the board, not just for the president, that people are generally unhappy. I mean, the Democratic Party is polling at 17% amongst independents with that Quinnipiac, and amongst men, it's at 20%. So I do think that people are complaining.
Democrats have a 48 to 41% advantage on control over the House.
Yeah, but we're going into the House where we expect that the Democrats are going to win.
I'm just saying, in that poll, even in spite of what you're saying, because I get it, right? Like, actually, Democrats are not happy with Democrats, which is probably driving this. The generic ballot favors Democrats right now, but on the president, the simple question, are you paying attention to the things we elected you to pay attention to? When do we get 75% of Americans practically saying anything in this country? They're saying he is not focused on the right things. How is that not a problem?
No, I don't think it's not a problem. It obviously is a problem politically. I think what the president would tell you is that he's focusing on what he believes is best for this country in the long term, despite the fact that it's hurting him right now in the polls. Iran is a perfect example of that. I think everyone in this administration understands the importance of making sure that they don't have access to nuclear weapons and that we are able to completely eradicate the threat that they pose in that region. At the same time, he understands that it's hurting him and the party in the polls. There's no doubt about that. The one bright side, if you want to think of it in that way, is that when that does get figured out, one of the leading reasons behind the polling is where it is the economy and gas prices, and that will return back to normal within a reasonable amount of time. So it's not like something that's going to stay there forever because of a policy that he has gone down.
The president, his party, and his policies on every single major issue they campaigned on are on political life support. voters will have an opportunity to pull the plug in November.
Well, Democrats are polling exactly the same way.
In that polling, the best way you measure the economy is feelonomics. Economics you can feel. Voters do not trust the president when it comes to feelonomics. That means MAGAnomics has been a failure. That also means the largest cut to Medicaid in American history, largest cut to SNAP, the 25 million Americans who've seen their premiums, copays, and deductibles skyrocket, including 18.2 million Americans in red states. They're showing their passivity in this polling. Donald Trump and Republicans have given the middle finger to middle-class Americans in middle America, and they are going to respond as they have been consistently
ignoring the polling
in every
that shows
single
exactly
election.
the same thing when it comes to these issues with Democrats, by and large, across the board. That has been the case.
That may be true about our brand, but November is going to be a binary choice, us versus them. And remember, in elections, I learned this as a Democrat in the last election, it's easier to vote against something than it is to vote for something.
Historically,
people are going to
based
vote
on history,
against.
Democrats are going to win.
I also want to point out that, Jason, you suggested that all the I don't want to say all. Most of the president's problems stem from his decision to go into the Iran war, which you support, and the subsequent high gas prices and inflation that followed. But let's look a little deeper at the poll, because it goes even beyond that. On trade, he is underwater 21%. Immigration, underwater 17%. Foreign policy, generally, underwater 28%. So it's not just, I mean, they are unhappy about the Iran war, for sure, Lydia, but it's not just that. It's really, literally every agenda item, including immigration, which is supposed to be a strong suit of his. 61% of Americans disapprove.
Guys, a new CNN poll is raising serious questions about Donald Trump's performance as president. According to the poll, 73% of Americans say Trump is not paying enough attention to the issues they care about most. Only about 1 in 4 Americans believes he has the right priorities. And you know what? During the 2024 campaign, this MAGA leader promised to bring down inflation, lower grocery prices, make housing more affordable, and reduce energy costs. Not only that, his main slogan was to keep America out of costly foreign wars. Those promises helped him win over millions of voters. Now, more than a year and a half later, a vast majority of Americans say that Trump failed to fulfill his promises. For many households, the biggest concerns are paying for groceries, healthcare, housing, and other everyday expenses. Meanwhile, many families are still struggling to make ends meet. Looking at those numbers, it's easy to understand why so many Americans feel frustrated.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is certainly a warning letter to Trump, and I think in the last few weeks, we've seen he focused on election integrity, which is polling a little bit better for him. I think he's trying to sort of reposition himself on some of these issues, certainly pushing the Trump accounts, the messaging around that. That's been a huge focus for the White House. But look, I'm not going to be Pollyannish here and say everything's fabulous. I think obviously the midterms is going to be a moment where people have to make a decision. I also am aligned with Jason that I don't think this is some sort of love letter to Democrats. But it is striking to me that one criticism of President Trump has been that he's all about whatever is best for him politically. And I guess for better or for worse, Iran was something that he knew was not going to be popular. A lot of Republicans are sort of regretting that decision that he made, but he's obviously doing that because he sees it as the right thing for him to do.
But he got into that war telling us it would be 4 or 5 weeks. We're now months into this war with 18 dead American soldiers. He has no
polling
plan.
reflects that, yeah.
This isn't about polling. This is about what's really happening. He has no plan to get out. Obviously, no one wants Iran to have a nuclear weapon, but we were told as Americans twice that we had obliterated their arsenal for a nuclear weapon. Then we were told we obliterated their military to only a few weeks later have soldiers killed by missiles they fired. Americans are, it's not about a poll, it's about the fact that we're in a war led by a man who promised no forever wars, and he has no plan.
So, Dave, to add to the mountain of problems, right? The president has also been very involved in a lot of personal vendettas. Mm-hmm. He's enriched himself greatly in the last 18 months. And 64% of Americans say that when it comes to pursuing his personal business interests while serving as president, Donald Trump has gone too far. There's kind of this sense, when I talk to Republicans on this show and elsewhere that, oh, it's just all baked in the cake. They know he's a rich guy. But I don't know. I mean, those numbers seem to suggest that Americans don't like it. It leaves a bad taste in their mouth.
Yeah, corruption's going to be a big issue in the midterms. And you can attach it to affordability, which he mocks. And then at the same time, he is putting his name on the Kennedy Center and the airport. I flew up today from DJT International Airport, formerly known as Palm Beach International Airport.
Don't make me sick to my stomach.
It's a controversial thing amongst a lot of people. And so while he's doing that and then making money through business ventures like crypto, people are wondering how they can pay for their gas and their groceries. And so this is a problem because remember, the issues he got elected on were affordability, it was inflation, and it was immigration. And I think of all the numbers you showed, that immigration number should really freak out Republicans. If they're losing on that, then there is no place to go.
Well, let's also get a better understanding of what it even means when we're talking about immigration in this context, because I think if you were to poll specifically about the fact that we actually have a closed border now and people aren't coming across illegally, across the board, Democrat or Republican would say that that's not a good thing.
That's not what Americans see. Americans see the $70 billion slush fund Republicans gave to ICE, and they see people being murdered.
There's not a single American who was polled there that was pointing directly to that. I guarantee you. They're talking about.
Think about the conversations. Think about the conversations we have when it comes to immigration right now in this moment.
Guys, as if that failure at home was not enough, this idiot started a war of choice against Iran. The United States has spent tens of billions of dollars on military operations in this Iran conflict. It is remarkable to hear MAGA pundits argue those costs are necessary to protect American interests. I mean, are you serious? What American interests are you talking about? Millions of Americans are suffering at home. These tens of billions of taxpayer dollars could have been spent here at home on education, healthcare, infrastructure, and easing the financial burden on working families. And on top of that, when ordinary Americans are falling behind, Trump and his family are expanding their business empire. They've reportedly made billions from crypto ventures, defense deals, and overseas mineral projects. Many critics argue that Trump has taken advantage of his position. They're arguing that while Trump and his family are getting richer, the American working class is struggling in their daily lives, maybe more than ever. With the midterms less than 100 days away, Republicans could face a serious challenge in key House and Senate races. Right now, working people want Washington focused on issues that affect their everyday lives. But unfortunately, this egotistical MAGA boss is paying more attention to his own agenda, and he doesn't care about ordinary Americans.
It's ICE killing people in cold blood in the streets
Covering
on
their
camera.
faces.
Yeah,
It's little kids being arrested. It's
That
people
did
showing.
happen.
No,
it did
didn't.
happen.
You're talking, no, you're interpreting certain instances in which people have been killed. There's no doubt. But this idea that they're being murdered in cold blood.
Renee Good and Alex
who
Preddy.
almost ran over an ICE agent,
Alex
which we
Preddy.
all saw on
What do you
video.
call
That
the
is
two
not true.
Minnesota
If you
incidents?
That is
If
not
you
true.
want to point to certain, I'm not suffering from anything.
No, I think you might be
I'm
suffering
looking
with
at
a
the
serious
actual
case of
details.
diabetes if you do not think that Americans do not see people being killed in cold blood by ICE. That's why
Being
American
killed in
people.
cold blood, I think, is rejected by the American people. I think
Well, that's not
overall,
what the
people
polling
look
says.
at some of the
Polling says
cases.
something different.
Is that what was questioned? Was that the question?
Look,
Well, they're talking about immigration as a whole.
was that
ICE
the
is
question?
an element of
Jason,
immigration.
are you suggesting that the American people were happy with how the president handled
No,
the
I'm
Minnesota
suggesting-
enforcement, which did lead to the deaths of 2 American citizens
No.
in the streets?
I'm suggesting that when we
what's the
ask the
point?
question simply on immigration, people who are upset will look specifically at that. But when you point out very specific questions under immigration,
Sure.
you're going to have different responses.
But either way, on the question of how is the president handling immigration, it seems like people are reacting negatively to that.
Yeah.
The border is closed. The president could have done that and left it at that. He'd probably have a sky-high approval rating on immigration. He chose not to do that, and so his choices around immigration are that's what's being told
people
right
see.
now.
Sure, but his choices were
that is
also
exactly
based on
what people-
campaign promises.
That's exactly
And
what
again,
people are responding
when
to.
you compare this particular issue with where Democrats are polling, they're not doing better than the president. And I think that matters
This
as
is the
well.
president.
That's it for today, guys. Do you think Trump's focus is on the right issues? Let me know in the comments. I'll see you in the next video.